Hey, it's Denise from ôHë.com, and on this video I want to show you 12 things you can make with locking stitch markers. Here's my number one way of using this stitch marker. If you're like me, you hate looking for the end of your yarn. Okay, there is an easier way. All I have to do is once I find that end, I had it kind of snugged in there, is that I take it and I create a slip knot. Find a contrasting color of these little stitch markers, slip the slip knot into the little stitch marker, and then just lock it into where I want to find it again. That's simple. Another great way of using the little stitch markers is to count my rows. And what I do is every 10 rows I'll put a little marker. And if you look here, you don't even really have to look at the project up close. Immediately you know that there's 40 rows here of knitting. And when I have a really large project like a blanket or an infinity scarf, then I'll decide on one number that I'm going to change the number, that I'm going to change the color. So here every 10 I will put orange, and when I get to 50 then I will make it green. I love these little guys as loom markers. So what happens when your pattern changes and now your markers are now where they need to be? Well, what's really cool about these is that if you know that your pattern is going to change, then don't lock the markers. Leave them open like this. And then you don't have to worry about that when your pattern changes and you need to mark some different pegs. Then just take your little stitch marker and just move it to the new location. That easily. Okay? Now your markers are in a different place. I love these little guys. They also work well as cable holders. So here we are, and we're going to swap these two loops in order to create that cable. So you can take your stitch marker that is acting like a cable holder and take the loop off the peg and take it to the back and let it sit there, and it's holding your loop. Take this one that you want to swap over and place it where you want. Now you just take the stitch holder, the stitch marker that is working as a cable holder, and use it to swap the loop over to the next. And there you have it. When I need to put a project together by pieces and I want to kind of mock up the project to see if it's going to work for me or not, then I use these like you would a safety pins in a sewing project, and it lets you know whether it's going to work or not before you get busy sewing everything up. So they work good to mock up your sewing project. Some stitch patterns require you to find an original stitch among several other ones. And one of those is the popcorn stitch, which is like a little bumpy stitch. It creates this little bump on your project. And the way you create that bump is basically by knitting the same peg over and over again. And so you come to the peg, let's say it's this one, and I do my first stitch and I knit off. This little guy, I'm going to knit him off. But instead of using my hook, I'm going to go ahead and use the stitch marker to knit him off. And so I take it and I pull it to the back. And that's my first stitch, which is the one I'm going to go hunting for. Alright, now in order to make that little popcorn stitch, I'm going to have to wrap this stitch at least 3 times. So that was my first one. Here's my second, third, and let's just do one more, fourth. Okay, so I've done 4 stitches on the same peg, and now it's time to go find that original. Well, if you don't mark it, you can see all of these stitches, they're all lined up, and you have to go find the first one. But if you already have a stitch marker on it, the hunt is really easy. You already have it. Just put it back on your peg, release it, knit off. And that's your popcorn stitch, and that's how you find that original first stitch that you did without having to go hunt. With a little piece of paper and some tape, I can leave myself a note. I find them very cute, and they give your knitwear like a burst of color. And in this case, they help to secure your scarf so that it stays closed without damaging it, because to put a metal safety pin on your knitwear is not always a good idea, and some brooches can leave ugly marks behind. These don't. So they work really good to close up your scarf and to add some color. They're not very sharp, so they're a good alternative as a safety pin for your kids. The last 3 ways I want to show you that I use these is they make cool decorations for party favors, for say a baby shower. If you have an item that you made that you want to put on and take off of, say, your sweaters, hats, whatever, you can add one of these, and it's a good idea to hot glue it, or say you can use fabric glue. If you use fabric glue, it's a good idea to put a couple of stitches right here just to make sure it gets secured. And don't worry about opening and closing them. They open and close just fine. What I would tell you, because people worry about breaking them, is that when you go to close it, don't grab the back side, because that's how they break. You need to close them using the tip. I've opened and closed this so many times, and it's never broken, and I paid $2 for 100 of these. So you can't get any cheaper than that, and it hasn't broken, only because I know not to use this back part. It's not that it's brittle, is that it's thicker, and this is not what you're supposed to use to close the little stitch marker. It's the tip here. So as long as you use that, you'll be able to use this again and again without a problem. And the last way that I use it, and this is temporary, so it's not going to work for years, but say you want to give somebody your set of keys and you want to show them which one is the house key, then you have 2 keys that look alike. You can always use a little stitch marker to show which one is different. So that's just 12 uses for these little guys. You can use them in hundreds of different ways. And to get more detailed information, just go to loomahead.com / locking stitch markers, and you'll find more information about these little guys there. And like I said, I initially paid about $2 for about 20 of them on sale at my local craft store, but when you buy them online, you can get hundreds of them for that price and free shipping. So there you have it, locking stitch markers.